I'm standing behind the BMW G310R. This bike is really interesting and actually a very requested motorcycle since I've now got the opportunity to work with BMW of Southeast Michigan. A lot of people are very interested in this bike as a first motorcycle, and I think it's really important to talk about first motorcycles because, well, you know my Ducati V2 and the V4 and the S1000R, these bikes are beautiful, but they are just so quick and so intimidating unless you have a lot of experience on the bike. This is a great motorcycle for someone literally thinking about buying their very first motorcycle or even learning how to ride, right? That's why you see a lot of motorcycle schools use bikes like this, 310 cc's. It's quite small. You're not going to get into a lot of trouble. It's got a low seat height. It's just a very good first motorcycle. So in today's video, I'm going to give you a first ride, first impression as well. I've never ridden a 310. I haven't really ridden a lot of bikes of this low cc range, so I don't know what to expect. I'm pretty excited for it though. It does look pretty cool, especially with the snazzy red wheels on it. This is BMW's. This is an interesting thing for BMW. They partnered with TVR, which is a company in India, to produce this single-cylinder small bike. A lot for that market specifically. It's also one of the only modern BMW motorcycles. It's the only modern BMW motorcycle with a sub 500cc engine. So BMW knows that it's very important to get people into the BMW family at a very low end, not low end, but low cc ratio, and hopefully work their way up into the big hitter bikes where they can hopefully make a little more money off them. All right, but let's suit up and let's go for a ride. Now, before we jump into the video, I want to say thank you to BMW of Southeast Michigan for loaning me this bike. Without their help, this video and many other BMW motorcycle first ride videos just wouldn't exist. Now, let's jump into the video. Now, I think it's really important to talk about why this motorcycle exists. Because up until the G310R, this bike, and the GS310R, which is the more adventure focused, BMW did not offer an entry-level motorcycle. So, why the change of heart? Well, in most of the world, people don't buy the 600cc to 1400cc motorcycles that really grace the roads of America. But instead, they're more focused on single-cylinder motorcycles that are in that 250cc to 500cc range. And while BMW usually caters to the premium segment in everything they do, like you think about BMW and the M series of cars and Rolls-Royce and Mini, they realized that markets like India and Brazil were thriving in motorcycle sales and they were just missing out. So, in an effort to sell more bikes and capitalize on these growing markets, they partnered with TVS Motors, who's had a long history of building quality small displacement motorcycles. And just because these motorcycles are built in India and are considered an entry-level motorcycle, it by no means feels like a cheap motorcycle, which is very important. And while BMW got the G310R and the more off-road focused GS310R out of the partnership, TVS got a more track-focused Apache RR310. And just take a look at the wheel, right? Same spec, but they've done a great job of really distinguishing these three motorcycles. While BMW sells the G310R and the GS310R in almost every country they operate in, TVS is not present in larger countries, but instead focuses on countries like South Africa, Colombia, Cambodia, and But alright, enough talking about this partnership, let's talk about my experience riding the BMW G310R. Let's talk about power, right? Let's talk about this engine. The heart of the new BMW G310R is a 313cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine with 4 valves, 2 overhead camshafts, and electronic fuel injection. And while it's not the fastest thing on the road, you've got to remember its duties are to power a fairly lightweight bike. With an output of 34 horsepower at 9,500 RPM and a maximum torque of 20.6 pound-feet at 7,500 RPM, it was more than enough to get the 350-pound motorcycle moving, and that's 350 pounds wet. Now, was this the slowest motorcycle I've ridden this year? Absolutely. But like I said earlier in this video, Americans don't buy a lot of small cc motorcycles, so there really aren't that many to ride, which also means my experience on these size motorcycles is really limited to the Honda 300 range, the Royal Enfield 411cc engine, and KTM's 390s. My thoughts for this engine are this: it's more than enough for your first motorcycle. I constantly push on my channel that your first bike should not be fast. It should have a low center of gravity, a low seat height, and allow you to feel comfortable throwing your leg over it for the first time all the way into your last time when you have a better knowledge and more experience riding motorcycles. And I feel like we've touched on performance of this bike enough, so let's talk about the components and the overall build quality, because they're pretty impressive. And one thing that BMW has done a great job of with this entry-level bike is to pick where they sacrifices should be made to keep the price down and, more importantly, keep that profit up. The inverted front forks are the true showstopper on this motorcycle, right? There are motorcycles that cost twice as much that don't have this quality of forks. But one thing I will say is that the rebound on the suspension, both front and rear, is a bit too aggressive for me. There were a few bumps in the road where I felt the suspension was going to really push me off the bike. Unfortunately, there are no suspension settings to adjust, but it might have just been my experience on the bike and might be a little different for you. Next up is the braking system. ABS is standard and something that I love to push onto new riders. And while more experienced riders, and I say that in quotations because everyone thinks they're Valentino Rossi, they don't like motorcycles with ABS. I feel personally that it's the best and safest way to learn how to ride a motorcycle, and that's what this bike is. And on top of the ABS that comes standard, a 4-piston front caliper is impressive for a bike of this cost. And something else that you still don't see on bikes twice the price of this is LED lights all around. We're talking about LED brake lights, LED headlights, and LED turn indicators. And for a more ergonomically friendly fit, the clutch lever and the handbrake lever now have 4 stages of adjustability. This allows people of all hand sizes the ability to ride comfortably. There's not a lot of technology on this tiny BMW, but honestly, that's okay. It's a simple bike for a simple purpose. The instrument dash is nothing to brag about, but it contains everything you need and nothing that you don't. It even shows a fuel gauge with miles to empty, which is a pretty nice feature to have. As for cost, color, and availability, obviously I'm on the motorcycle now, so it's available in the US. And there are 3 colors available. So there's the limestone metallic that I rode, which is about $5,790. The kyanite blue metallic will also cost about $5,790, and the cheapest will be the cosmic black that will cost $5,540. As a wrap up, right, the BMW G310R is a great first motorcycle. It's enough power to get you from point A to point B, and not enough that you could accidentally grab too much throttle and see yourself losing control. Right, there are a lot of nice pieces on this bike that make it one of the best motorcycles in the price range. You know, outside of a few negative aspects, like the seat wasn't as comfortable as I expected, and that's kind of really it. Right, there's a lot of positive things for a bike that's going to cost you about $6,000 out the door after taxes and any sort of benefits that BMW is offering. Just a lot of motorcycle for that price. And, if you don't know what to look for, this bike looks way more expensive than its competitors. And if I was buying my first motorcycle, it'd be hard-pressed not to find a better pick than this. Now, that's all I have for you today. And once again, thank you BMW Motorcycles of Southeast Michigan for throwing me the keys to the G310R. And if you've got any questions on the BMW lineup, reach out to them and they will be happy to help. Now, go out there and ride safe.